Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something, well, a bit complex maybe. It's this really insightful take on loss and connection,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe from an angle you haven't thought about much.
We're looking at this fascinating piece of writing, yeah.
Yeah, it really challenges how we usually think about why it's sometimes so hard to let someone go after things end.
Exactly. So the source material is this chapter, and it's all about, the aftermath of loss. The
Right.
title is pretty direct, How You Fall Out of Love with the Idea of Someone.
Right. And our mission, our goal for this deep dive is basically to unpack what this text is saying.
Mm.
Because its core argument is that maybe, just maybe, the struggle to move on tells you more about yourself.
About what you're holding on to inside.
Precisely. Rather than just being a measure of, how much you love the other person.
It really flips the script on that common idea, doesn't it? That intense pain means intense love.
It does.
So we're going to explore the difference the source draws between, genuine care for someone and just clinging to a concept, an idea of them. Yeah, and what the text suggests this difficulty, this inability to detach actually means for you listening right now.
Okay, let's dive in then. Where does the source start?
Well, it kicks off by outlining these two sort of aftermaths. Two scenarios for when you lose something.
Okay.
Scenario one, you lose something, you find a replacement, maybe even a better one, and you're happy. Everything's okay. The gap is filled.
Like you break your favorite mug, buy a new one you like just as much, end of story, no big emotional drama.
Exactly that. Simple replacement. But then the source says there's this second scenario, and this is where things get more interesting for our discussion.
Right.
You lose something, but even after it's gone, maybe you've even technically replaced it, the feeling of not having it, it just sticks around. It's this really powerful, persistent presence in your head.
It doesn't just fade away.
No, it hangs around. And right there, that's where the source throws down its first big challenge to, what we usually believe.
Yeah, I remember this part. It says something like, we're told to believe that not being able to let go proves how much we love them. And I don't think this is true.
Pretty blunt, right? It cuts right against that idea we all kind of absorb that the longer the pain lingers, the deeper the love must have been.
So the source is saying, wait a minute, maybe that difficulty letting go isn't the best measure of the original connection's depth or how unique that person was.
That's the argument. It's suggesting something else might be going on.
Okay, so if it's not just about proving how much you love them, what is happening then, according to this text, when we just can't let go?
This is where it gets to the core idea. And it might feel a little uncomfortable.
Lay it on us.
Okay, so the source basically asserts this. Living with a ghost, crafting an idea that you need to hold on to fill a space or insecurity with, is using the idea of someone to fix something about yourself.
Whoa. Okay. So the ghost, the memory, the idea, it's not just a passive memory. It's like a tool, something we're actively using in the present.
That's exactly what the source suggests. Yeah. If you're clinging to the idea of someone, that ghost, it's serving some kind of function for you. You might be using that mental picture, that memory, maybe even an idealized version, to deal with some internal need you have, an insecurity maybe, or just trying to fill a void you feel inside.
That links up with another point it makes, doesn't it? About nostalgia, that we're often nostalgic for things that didn't even happen.
Yes, exactly. It talks about being more nostalgic for things that never happened than we are grateful and present in the things that are. Like missing things that we just created in our minds in this false alter reality.
So we build these whole scenarios, these perfect versions in our heads.
Potential futures, maybe? Idealized memories. And then we mourn the loss of that, which might not have fully matched the actual reality of the relationship anyway.
Which kind of explains why some losses are easier to handle, like the coffee mug example. We replace it, move on. But others feel impossible.
Yeah. Right. And the source gives a reason for that difference. It says, the things that are easily replaced are usually the ones that you have an attached existential meaning to.
Existential meaning. Okay, what does that mean here? Like practically?
It clarifies that. It says, that is to say, they're the things you don't rely on to give you a sense of self. That's the key bit.
Oh, okay.
So the things, or the people, we struggle to let go of, they're often the ones we've maybe unconsciously relied on to tell us who we are, to give us purpose, or an identity we feel we lack otherwise.
And that totally reframes what it means when you can't stop thinking about someone or find it so hard to move on. The source is pretty direct about this too.
Very direct. It says, the things that don't leave your head are not the ones that show you what's meant to be. They're the things that show you what you're still not okay with on your own.
Wow. That really shifts the focus, doesn't it?
Mm.
From, oh, this must be my soulmate because I can't forget him
To, okay, what is this fixation telling me about my own stuff?
Yeah, the source suggests it's like a mirror, reflecting your own internal world, unresolved issues, insecurities, parts of yourself you haven't quite made peace with yet.
Okay, then the source brings up unconditional love.
Yeah.
But its definition is interesting.
Yeah, it's maybe not the fluffy version we often hear. He says, you know what unconditional love is. Unconditional love is loving someone even if they don't unconditionally love you in return. That's affection without pretense.
Affection without needing something specific back in that exact moment. Just care.
Exactly. And contrast that with how it describes many other connections. It says, most people we enjoy because they're contact highs.
Contact highs. What's the idea there? Like a temporary buzz?
Kinda, yeah. It implies the enjoyment comes from the feeling they give you, temporarily. Often it's about getting your own needs met, right? Getting validation, feeling good for a bit because of them.
So it relies on their presence or their actions giving you that jolt. Which ties back to that idea of using others, or the idea of them, to fix something in ourselves.
And this relates to having types, right? Or really strict standards for partners.
Yes, the source hints that having these super rigid types or these long checklists of standards, well, sometimes that can be proof that we're just looking for somebody to play a role.
Someone to fit neatly into the script we've already written in our heads. The idea we need them to be.
Precisely. Which then leads into the source's take on heartbreak itself. It argues heartbreak isn't always about losing a deep, authentic connection. It's something else.
What does it say heartbreak is then?
It calls heartbreak the aftermath of when somebody steps out of the very specific notion you had of them.
Ah, so you had this blueprint, this idea.
Yeah, this carefully built concept, this expectation, this perfect package you thought they were. And the pain, the difficulty letting go isn't just about losing the actual person. It's about holding on to the fact that the package looks so perfect, the pieces seem to fit, and yet, but still...
They stopped fitting the mold you needed them to fit.
Right, they stopped playing the role you needed them to play for your own internal reasons. And the intense pain is partly the loss of that potential fix they represented.
That makes a lot of sense of that feeling.
Uh-huh.
Like when someone you thought you knew inside out suddenly changes. Or when a relationship ends and you just keep replaying your ideal version of them.
Yeah, and the source uses this really vivid analogy for that. It compares being hung up on someone you used to know, or the idea of them, to falling in love with a book.
A book? How does that work?
Well, the source explains it like this. You can love it all you want, but it's a story that runs parallel to yours. At the end of the day, it's static, it's memory. It's a sentence and you can't change it. It ends how it ends. It says what it says. You're interacting with something fixed, unchanging the memory, the idea you created, not the real evolving person.
It's that false alter reality again, engaging with the static past, not the dynamic present.
Exactly, which naturally leads to the question of, okay, what do you do then? How do you move forward?
And the source mentioned some advice from a friend, right? About finding love.
Yes. It relays this idea that the secret to finding love was not to actually look for it, but to heal the things that were preventing you from seeing and receiving it.
So shifting the focus inward again. Less about the external hunt, more about internal work.
Absolutely. And building on all of this, the source really boils it down to one crucial question. Maybe the crucial question you should ask yourself if you're stuck on someone, or even as you're drawn to someone new.
Okay, what's the big question?
The source suggests you ask yourself, very honestly, what will having this love fix?
Oof, yeah. That cuts deep, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Straight to the heart of the matter.
It really does. And it doesn't stop there. The source follows up with more specific, probing questions to help you figure that out.
Like what?
Like, what do you need them to make you feel better about? What insecurity are they soothing? What do you need them to tell you, or maybe prove to you, or even prove to others?
Right. Who do you need them to impress? What purpose are they serving for your ego?
Exactly. All these questions are designed to get you to see if your attraction or your attachment is more about the person themselves and all their reality, or if it's about the function they serve in propping up your own sense of self-worth or identity.
And the source argues this is why some intense feelings we think are love, well, they just fizzle out.
Yeah, it puts it bluntly. We confuse genuine affection and real love with the light, happy, free feeling we experience for a few seconds, days, months when we have fed our egos.
So it feels amazing because it's temporarily filling that need, validating us hitting that ego button.
Right, but it's not necessarily about a deep, authentic connection to the actual person.
And the source says that's why it often doesn't last.
Correct. That's why it doesn't last. Because ego boosts are inherently temporary. They need constant topping up from the outside. Real affection, the kind the source seems to value, is less about what you get and more about that authentic connection, that affection without pretense.
Okay, so let's bring it back around. The main point of this whole chapter seems to be that holding on to the idea of someone, these fragments, these soundbite dreams, as the source calls them, it's not really proof of some grand destiny, but it's actually...
It saves something about ourselves. We cling to the idea because that idea is doing something for us. It's meeting an internal need, papering over an insecurity, serving a purpose for our own self-concept.
And there's a warning attached to this, right? If we're not aware of what we're doing.
Yeah, a pretty potent warning. It says, and if you're not careful, that person will become a part of you. They will become the good part, the whole part, the love of your life.
Meaning the idea of them gets tangled up with your own sense of self. Like they become the keeper of the qualities you feel you're missing.
Exactly. The idea, the ghost, becomes the container for your perceived goodness, your completeness. So it feels like you literally cannot be whole or okay without holding on to that idea.
You project your own missing pieces onto them, or the idea of them, making it feel essential.
Yeah. Makes it feel impossible to let go because it feels like letting go of a vital part of yourself.
So wrapping this up, the core takeaway from this source seems to be that when a past relationship, or just the idea of someone, has this really strong, lingering hold on you,
Yeah.
that's a sign, a signal pointing inward.
It's prompting you maybe to look at what you need to heal or build or accept within yourself to feel whole, rather than just focusing endlessly on how important they were or the connection was.
It really shifts the focus from, why did I lose them, to what was the idea of them doing for me.
Exactly. It's a different lens entirely.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty significant question to ponder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Building on what we've just unpacked.
Yeah.
Well, if this source is right, and holding on to the idea of someone often shows you what you feel is missing inside yourself. What specific qualities, what feelings might you be looking for out there in someone else instead of maybe trying to cultivate them within?
That's a big one to sit with.
Yeah.
What are you outsourcing, emotional speaking?
Definitely something to think about.